There are two battles that I constantly face. The first, of course, is veganism. If you have been vegan for some time, you are aware of the backlash. Everything from friends and family constantly questioning you to the current trend of anti-vegan carnivore dieters here on social media. The second battle I face is for my political views. Vegans who are more right-leaning, conservative, are met with anger and hostility.
In her story highlight, she references Candace Owens, Dave Rubin, and Ben Shapiro, who are all right-wing propagandists here in the US. Today. And I know a lot of you are going to probably hate me, or like a large percentage will probably hate me after this, but it's just like, I don't care, okay? You can hate me. It's fine. I'm not here to be your bestie, okay? I'm an educator. I'm here to speak the truth on my platform. That's what I do, okay? And hopefully you can respect the fact that I respect you enough to tell you the truth.
So one thing I've noticed being vegan for the past 5 years now in this movement is that people love to talk about fairy tales about intersectionality and progressiveness and these other social justice movements, and they really think that the left, whatever you want to call it, progressive people, everyone knows what I mean, these social justice-y, progressive kind of people, they really like to think that the left has a hold on animal rights, that a certain political ideology is more associated with animal rights than another political ideology, but that is just bullshit.
Human beings claim to be compassionate, claim to know better, and then we turn around and do the same horrible things to the animals that we've done to each other that logical people now condemn. What we've done to blacks, what we've done to women, what we do to homosexuals. It is time to eradicate all forms of discrimination once and for all, from speciesism down the line. But let me point this out too. You're never going to get rid of racism, sexism, heterosexism, anti-Semitism until you destroy discrimination at its root, and that root is speciesism. It's the first form of hatred human beings are taught.
A big thing I have noticed is that vegans, conservatives, and intersectionalists are all often stereotyped. Vegans face constant criticism and cherry-picked arguments from the media. Conservatives also face the same battle. When it comes to being both conservative and vegan, the judgment is all too real.
So the comparison I was trying to make is that George was saying that, of course, vegans are anti-oppression, they're all anti-oppression, yet he's welcoming Trump supporters, for example, he wants to be marching alongside Trump supporters and MRA activists and right-wingers.
So not everyone is going to agree with intersectionality. Just because we're seeing a diverse range of people getting involved in animal rights, people of different genders, different political backgrounds, different countries, so not everyone's going to agree with this sort of political ideology. Well, if you disagree with an intersectionalist, you're in pretty big trouble, and I'm sure some of us here might have had that experience. As I mentioned, these intersectional activists have distorted the meaning of intersectionality to mean different forms of oppression are all related to each other. So if you don't agree with even one of their political beliefs, well, now you've quite literally become Hitler to them. If you don't agree with feminism, that means by extension you are supporting racism and all other forms of bigotry because they're all interrelated to one another. And I've experienced this myself because I don't support Black Lives Matter, because I've criticized the wage gap myth between men and women. Intersectional activists have called me far right-wing, racist, white supremacist, homophobic, women hater, just because I happen to have a few minor political disagreements.
Yes, conservatives can be vegan. We exist. Yet the truth, statistically speaking, is very valid. Conservatives are less likely to go vegan for various reasons, such as tradition or religion. Tofu Goddess did an excellent series about conservative vegans.
The subject. So today I want to look at how do vegans lean politically. So specifically, how do vegans self-identify politically, and how do they vote? So conveniently, there was actually a study published just a few weeks ago that asked vegans these very questions. There's an online survey that took a total of 287 vegans who had been vegan for at least 6+ months and asked them various political questions. So I'm going to discuss the results of said survey. One thing that they asked them, which maybe isn't technically relevant to this video, but I thought was too interesting to just not include, was why they're vegan. Because I think there's a lot of speculation as to what the best method to get people to go vegan is. Some vegans argue it's the ethical argument, some argue it's the environmental, some argue it's the health. And I think this will shed some light on which is actually the best approach. So 81% of vegans said that they went vegan for ethical reasons. So they went vegan for the animals, which is always nice to hear. And 11% of vegans went vegan for the environment, and only 7% of vegans went vegan for personal health. So take that information and do with it what you will. I just thought it was kind of a fun fact, and thought I'd share it with you. But let's move on now to the actual point of this video and discuss how vegans align or identify politically. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to talk about four most relevant categories. 46% of vegans identify as a Democrat, 9% identify with the Green Party, 3% identify as Republican, and 6% identify as an independent. I don't know about you, but I was shook when I heard that. I suspected that there was a slight liberal leaning within veganism, but I didn't know it was this stark. Only 3% of vegans identify as a Republican.
I don't think it's fair to paint all conservatives with the same brush. The same way many conservatives, admittedly, tend to paint intersectionalists.
But left-wing non-vegans take it to a new level. Like, non-vegan SJWs, when you make like a Holocaust post, a slavery post, whatever, that's like a much bigger thing in their eyes. This is why everyone hates vegans. Vegans are just a bunch of fucking white privilege, this and that. So there's definitely a problem there. Yes, the right might get kind of like offended by those posts, but the left just take it to a completely different level.
Okay, so you're done talking?
Are you done talking?
Well, you just said you're done talking. I'm asking you to explain your position, and then you're like, I'm not going to do that. So you're done?
Are you done talking? Mr. Vegan
Well,
Gale?
apparently you're done because you don't want to explain your position.
I've spent an inordinate amount of time explaining my position, and
badly.
Yeah, badly.
Badly.
Vegan Mooncat.
You make absolutely no sense. I mean, I thought when Richard gets on here, I mean, you're talking him down, saying he's talking over you. He's doing no more talking over you than you're talking over him. So,
Okay.
It's absolutely nonsense. You're coming up with all this crazy stuff. And to be honest, it sounds like ego to me. You want to be the one that's right. You want to have all these big opinions. And to be honest, it doesn't sound like you care about anyone else's other than your own.
Some of these encounters may seem rare and often personal, yet I feel it has invaded the vegan movement. It has done more harm than good. Because it gets personal, it becomes very nasty. Dave Rubin often discusses a mob-like mentality from the left. They may be diverse in people, but not in thought. The second you have a different opinion, you are canceled.
Now, what's interesting is you're right. When you are a member of what is supposedly an oppressed minority, and I should say a perceived oppression, because it's usually not a real oppression, at least in the West. I mean, if we lived in certain Arab countries, let's say, being gay would be an actual oppressed minority group, right? But what's interesting is because the left generally believes in collectivism, they say things like, we're for gays, we're for women, we're for black people. Well, those things they all sound right. But then when you think about them, what you have to realize is the more that you're for a group, the more that you have to crush the individual.
Many activists are attacked for simply having a different opinion. It appears to be a very common theme within the vegan movement. But why? Shouldn't we all want everyone to go vegan?
So back to George Martin. He was in this video clip, and we'll play the audio now, where he basically said some problematic stuff, and Paul, the founder of AB, said, yeah, man, for sure. So we're just going to play that now so you can hear for yourself.
Feminists marching alongside men's rights activists, marching alongside Green Party supporters, marching alongside Trump supporters for the animals at animal rights marches. That's an inclusive movement. And if you're shutting people out of the movement because they don't have a certain, the same political ideology as you, that's not building an inclusive movement.
Yeah, fuck me, right?
Some people suspect this is the real reason Gary Yourofsky has stopped doing activism.
I doubt we'll ever know exactly what he had to deal with from intersectionalists, but this man is the very opposite of a softie, and yet here we are with one less activist in the public arena. After reading his own Facebook post, it's hard not to conclude that his resignation was brought on prematurely by people whose ideology would necessarily lead them to tear down who they see as antagonistic to their own ends.
It's shameful that great activism is shut down simply because of an individual's political beliefs.
Hate or discriminate against a certain race or ethnicity, they are taught to hate and discriminate against animals before any man was ever taught to mistreat a woman.
Human beings claim to be compassionate, claim to know better, and then we turn around and do the same horrible things to the animals that we've done to each other that logical people now condemn. What we've done to blacks, what we've done to women, what we do to homosexuals. It is time to eradicate all forms of discrimination once and for all, from speciesism down the line. But let me point this out too. You're never going to get rid of racism, sexism, heterosexism, anti-Semitism until you destroy discrimination at its root, and that root is speciesism. It's the first form of hatred human beings are taught.
I believe as humans, we are born innocent. Things like racism, sexism, and homophobia are learned behaviors. Gary has a point here. One of the very first things you were taught as a child is eat cows, chickens, and pigs, yet love and lavish your cat or dog. They are part of the family. So if someone is truly a racist homophobe, wouldn't caring about animals at least put them on the right path towards compassion? The hatred of the world begins with what is on your plate.
We as a vegan movement need to get more political, not in a partisan way, not in supporting a particular ideology way, but across the board. Because until we end farming subsidies in countries where farming subsidies are a thing, not one animal is saved by people going vegan.